So greetings, everybody. We're pleased to have you join us for today's session, Creating Your Professional Consulting Website with Jared Gold, the founder of Brevity Digital and Website by Tonight. My name is Liz Steble, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Professional Independent Consultants of America, and I'll be helping to run today's session with a bad cold. I don't usually sound like this. I have two quick things to cover before I hand it over to Jared. First, I want to say a few words about PICA. PICA is a membership organization that was created by 3 independent consultants who realized there was no single reliable place to go for help. Sure, you could waste hours doing your own research, but wouldn't it be just easier if there was a trusted source? So that's why we created PICA, to be your guide and trusted resource and a place to go to get your questions answered so you can grow your own successful consulting business and live the life you want. Today's event is an example of the type of practical help that we offer. Second, I want to cover some quick housekeeping items. To cut down on background noise, you're all on mute, but we encourage you to participate by typing in questions and comments. There's 2 ways to do this. Via the chat window, which some of you have already said where you're joining us from. When you use the chat window, it's visible to everyone, but if you want to remain anonymous, you can use the Q&A feature, and that will only be seen by me and Jared. Note, you may need to hover your cursor over the bottom of your screen to get the control panel to pop up or appear. And my last housekeeping item is I will be sending a copy of the slides to you by email, so you don't need to take screen prints or photos. And we'll probably get that out today or tomorrow, the copies of the slides. Are there any questions so far? Doesn't seem that way. Okay. Uh-oh, wrong button. Honestly. All right. Let me introduce Jared. Over the last 6 years, Jared has either created or given advice on several hundred websites. His first company, called Brevity, helps business-to-business firms stand out online as thought leaders through attractive and easy-to-maintain custom Squarespace sites. While he was leading Brevity, he discovered that there was an underserved niche, solo practitioners like us, who need simple yet professional websites. So he launched his second company called Website by Tonight, which streamlines the website process for people like us. His team gathers the necessary info and content from you, and then they work with you via screen share to build and launch your website in a matter of hours. Over the years, Jared has become quite the website expert. He hosts a popular course on Udemy, and he's actually featured right on the Squarespace website as an expert. And with that, I'm handing it over to Jared, coming to you live from Washington, D.C.
Thank you for the intro, Liz. Never get tired of that. Nice to be here. We've done this a bunch based on the good reviews, and excited to keep doing it. So thanks for having me. So just to jump right in, I've really found that the #1 reason that people don't have websites is that they're overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. I feel like even if like just the average person on the street, I feel like a lot of them have like seemingly strong opinions about websites, and there's just so much advice out there, often very conflicting. You don't know who to listen to, and that just gets overwhelming. So, the first thing I recommend is to forget everything you think that you quote unquote need. So you think you need a 15,000 person fan Facebook page, or a 10,000 person email list, or fancy search engine optimization, or a super intricate logo. Like, you don't need any of those things to get a simple professional website up and running. Those things are all nice to have and have their own value down the road, but Rome was not built in a day. So there's, they're only going to hold you back. Like, you can't put the cart before the horse. So those things all come in time.
Honestly. Okay, there you go.
So in general, as a solo practitioner, independent consultant, really what you need is a simple brochure website. And when I say a simple brochure website, I mean something along the lines of perhaps a one-page scroller, which it looks like this example on the right it looks like it's going to keep scrolling, or maybe up to 4 to 6 pages, where it's something like home, services, about, ideally some case studies or testimonials, and a contact form. To make it easy for someone who might be a fit to reach out to you and start the conversation. Overall, the purpose of your website is probably to get a prospect to meet with you. So you want to make it as easy as possible to reach out, as obvious to do that for that person to take that next step. But the second purpose, and still very important purpose, is to establish your credibility and professionalism. So, for example, I imagine that, whenever I meet someone and they say they're a business professional, the first thing I'm going to do is go look at their website. And I'm assuming really that's the case for the vast majority of people. So the website is the first line of credibility. I feel like, feel free to live chat or raise your hand or what have you. Or I think live chat, if you agree that, you've met someone in person and they seem professional and you went to the website and it was just terrible, right? It was awful. Because I've definitely done that a lot. And that saved me a lot of time, in speaking with someone who kind of talked the talk, and then I see their website and I'm like, oh, this person is not even legit. So you want to make sure that when people go to your website, which they're inevitably going to do, that you look credible and professional.
Jared, there's one other reason that self-employed consultants need websites now, and that's particularly the state of California. There's been a recent ruling in the Supreme Court of California, and it has a lot to do with looking like a legitimate business. You have to demonstrate that you're a legitimate business to be paid on a business-to-business basis or 1099 basis. And a website is one of the easiest ways to do that.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. And so next, what makes a good website? Firstly, I always say less is more, right? So just enough info where it's easy to read and it's obvious to take the next step. I imagine in almost all of these cases, if you're an independent consultant or a solo practitioner, that that like you're not selling something directly on your website. What you're doing is the call to action is to fill out a contact form. Like ideally you want to speak to a prospect as opposed to just have add this $5,000 consulting package to your cart and check out. So you don't need to say all the content to try to make someone commit to buying a $5,000 package right on your website without talking to you. Instead, you just need enough information to allow the prospect to say to themselves, oh, this person actually seems like they're credible and they might be able to solve this problem I'm having. So I always say the less is more, and optimize just enough information to get that person to take the next step. I'm sorry, Liz, go back one.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Secondly, you don't want it to look like it's just been sitting and collecting dust. So we've all seen those websites that maybe have like a title that say latest blog. It's from like January of 2015. So that will send like the reverse effect. It's like, wait, is this person not in business? Does this person just not care about their website and it's been sitting for years, or they just not care about blogging? Do they give up? So it's not that your website has to have 2 new blogs every day or 3 social media posts every day, but more so just ideally it looks on the newer side, or enough that like you care about it. And if there is a blog, perhaps the latest blog is 1 or 2 months old, and you're blogging perhaps as infrequently as like once a month, if you can commit to that. Next, like I mentioned, less is more. So one good example of that is don't have these large blocks of heavy text, these very dense paragraphs, because those are really hard to read, and people tend to their eyes tend to glaze over and they might miss something important. Next, you want to make sure you have high quality images or photos, and those are really easy to find, like good high quality stock images. It's not like you need to hire a professional photographer to come take pictures of your office or anything like that, unless you really want. And lastly, you want a website that looks good and relatively uniform on all modern devices, including mobile phones, right? I'm assuming everyone on this webinar has smartphones, and that's really important because they're browsing the internet on there. And when you say a website looks good on mobile, generally what you mean is it's what's called a responsive website. And the way to think of that is the website automatically responds to the size of the visitor screen. And before I continue, does anyone have any questions or anything?
The chat window and the Q&A window are quiet.
Okay. Chat's been unusually quiet. I need you all to wake up here. I'm sure you have questions. And so the one really important thing to note is that you no longer have to know how to code, because we have more and more tools that are becoming available that allow you to create something really nice that doesn't require you to go in and learn to code and fidget with all those things. And that main tool that I'm referring to is called a content management system, or a CMS. And you want to use a content management system because it's kind of like a drag and drop website builder, if you will. Most content management systems are. So instead of going, line by line, every little bit of code, and doing very cumbersome things just to change simple text or an image, content management system is a great modular way to manage your website, whether it's swap content, monitor analytics, add pages, add new, embed video, add new features, whatever. You really want a content management system. And the good thing is that really most content management systems don't require you to install any software directly on your computer. It's not like installing Microsoft Word or anything. It actually works right in your browser. So I think the big key there is to use a modern browser, and really most web-based software in general these days is optimized to work with the latest version of Google Chrome. So that's what I recommend there. Content management systems also have lots of features and make it super easy to maintain the website. And if your website isn't super complex, it's actually usually a very good idea to get a content management system that is already hosted for you. It'll get it because it'll get your site up and running quicker. So if you have a content management system, you don't need to install it on your computer, but in some cases, you need to install it. You need to find like a hosting provider, like a Bluehost. I feel like a lot of people have heard of that. So that's one common hosting provider. And so ideally, you find a content management system that is already hosted for you that doesn't require you to find something like a Bluehost. And with that being said, I really, really strongly, so I have no financial relationship with Squarespace, by the way. So this is just an entirely unbiased recommendation here, but Squarespace really is the best CMS. It has everything all in one place. They host the website for you. They have the templates for you. They are a one-stop shop for support, and they really have all the functionality you need. I've tried out other content management systems or CMSs, such as WordPress and Wix and things like that. And really, Squarespace is by far the most intuitive and just like works the best very seamlessly. They also do have really amazing customer support. I have plenty of clients switch from, for example, Wix, because the customer support is so difficult to reach and work with. They take weeks to respond. Or let's say a lot of people I speak to are like, yeah, I have a WordPress site. It got hacked. I'm unsure how to fix things. I'm unsure how to make it secure. I'm unsure where to go to update this plugin. And so here, none of those are issues because Squarespace handles all that for you. They also allow for the ability to implement other widgets and web-based software. So one really common example of like a widget or web-based software is live chat. I think we've all been to websites where there's some sort of live chat widget. And I'm not even necessarily saying that many of you all would use live chat, but the good thing is that you can embed those widgets on your website for extra functionality. So you don't need like a super intricate website out of the box. But if you want to keep building on yours, they allow you to do that. And on that note, a Squarespace website is super easy to monitor, very quick to update, and very quick to scale with those additional pages and design and marketing functionality and widgets and all that. So firstly, when I'm speaking with a prospective client, I'll ask them a few discovery questions. And so these are the same ones I ask them, and I think it'd be helpful for you to ask them to yourselves. So firstly being, what is, and by discovery questions, I mean, these are some questions that you ask yourself that allow you to clarify, like envision what you're looking to make, what kind of website you're looking for. First thing would be, what's the purpose of your website and what are you hoping to accomplish? And one good example of this is, I remember a client, I asked him, hey, what's the purpose of your website? What are you looking to accomplish? And he was like, well, I guess this is kind of a related question, or comment was, he goes, well, I like apple.com. And I'm like, well, that's great, but you're a services company, and Apple sells hardware and software, and they have like physical products with, pictures of them, right? So like Apple.com is very different because they're, selling products on their site. They're selling you subscriptions to iTunes or Apple or what have you. And so the key is thinking about the purpose of your website, what you're hoping to accomplish. Chances are the purpose of your website, if you're an independent consultant or solo practitioner, is to be like an attractive online brochure where people can see that they're a fit, see you're credible, and reach out to you if they think that you can help them, right? And that's what the purpose and what you're hoping to accomplish. So I would say always keep that in mind so that you can optimize towards that. Next, and by the way, we have a question which I will get to at the end of this slide.
There's one on the chat in the Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let me see. Here we go. It didn't display, Liz. It might have just went to you, so you can ask me at the end of the slide.
Okay.
And so next, who is your ideal customer, client, or audience, or usual demographic? And this question is helpful to keep in mind because you kind of build some empathy for your visitors. And one example is, this might not be the best example, but let's just say hypothetically you have a retirement home business, or you have a much older audience. Chances are you don't want the flashiest, craziest, fanciest site with all these animations and tons of video and tons of things popping all over the place, because that would probably overwhelm your audience if the folks are older, like senior citizens. Like I would save like the crazy technology risks for possibly like if your audience was younger, then. So just keeping things in mind as to what kind of risks to take and when to take them, and think about who you're writing for as well. So if you are I'm trying to think of an example. Like, just in general, I'm blanking on an example now, I apologize. But just in general, you always want to think about your ideal customer and your visitor to your website when you're making both design decisions as well as like writing copy and image decisions. Next was the question I did bring up in the first point of what are some websites you like and why? And ideally, the websites that you like and why are ones that you want to emulate. They're from the same industry or they have the same purpose. So for example, to increase your credibility. So like I mentioned with the services provider that really likes Apple.com, well, that's great, but maybe find another consultant's website that maybe has kind of the fanciness or the elegance of Apple.com, but it's it's obviously related to them selling services as opposed to some sort of online shopping business or online shopping site. So in this case, perhaps of other, you could find examples of inspirational consulting websites, or even look at your competitors' websites. Maybe they're all awful, and then there's more opportunity for you to have a good website, or perhaps maybe a few of them you like, and you can mix and match from them and add your own flair. Next is, when people see your website or brand, what adjectives or feelings do you want to pop into their minds? Or is there an overall tone you're going for? And so this is really helpful here. And I imagine that as consultants, one of the common adjectives or feelings you're probably going for to instill in visitors is a level of confidence, right? I know that chances are if people hire a consultant, they probably want someone pretty confident. Conversely, like let's say you're a therapist, you probably want a website that is geared towards giving a calming feeling or a welcoming feeling or a hopeful feeling or things like that. And I think so, hopefully that drives the point home as to thinking about the overall tone and adjectives and feelings you're hoping to, have in your visitors. So I think that's really important going forward. Last, what are some Squarespace templates you like and why? And there are a lot of good templates, and there's a lot of ways to do, there's no one right way to do a website. In my experience, however, Liz kept pressing me, and I was able to give her these suggestions based on what templates I had experimented with. So all of these suggestions from Bedford to Kent, you see you have quite a few options, and they're very customizable in and of themselves, but to perhaps consider these templates when starting, and I think you'd be fine with any of them, because some Squarespace templates are more portfolio and media heavy. So for example, it wouldn't make sense to, if you're an independent consultant looking to promote your services and have a contact form for people to reach out and maybe some case studies, it wouldn't make sense to have a media portfolio template that a video company might use and have 10 to 20 videos on their site with these large image thumbnails. That just wouldn't, your content is not video, so it wouldn't fit that kind of template, for example.
So Jared, let me read the question that came in actually right after you were talking about Squarespace being the best CMS. The question
Sure.
is, assuming one already has a website using a different CMS,
Mhm.
how easy is it to transfer content from one CMS to another?
I'm going to ask a polite follow-up question just to confirm. Um, does this person have a significant amount of content, or and when I say significant amount of content, I mean maybe like more than 8 pages, or do they happen to have like a significant repository of blogs, or is it pretty simple amount of content?
Well, maybe you could answer the question both ways.
Sure.
So if it's pretty straightforward website, how easy is it to transfer? But if you have a lot of content, what are the complications?
Yeah. So if you have a pretty straightforward website where perhaps you have 8 to 10 pages at most. Chances are you probably have less, and you don't have like a ton of blogs. Maybe you have 5 to 10 if you have any blogs. Then it's really easy to transfer content for the most part, because you can just copy and paste. You can just copy and paste like text content directly from whatever your current website is into Squarespace, just as you'd copy and paste anywhere else. And then you probably have the images saved somewhere, and you can re-upload those images, and that's that, right? It's pretty easy to move over in general. Like, you are rebuilding it, but it's just a matter of copying and pasting and re-uploading some images. If you do happen to have, like, let's say a lot of people do have like an old WordPress site where they've been blogging on for like 5 years, and they want to keep all their blogs, and maybe they have like 100 or 200 blogs, then that's not where I'm too experienced. I know with WordPress you can export blog content, and I know with Squarespace you can actually import a WordPress blog, but I'm not entirely sure of all the details. But fortunately, I think that that's more of an unusual scenario for consultants. And it looks like the person whose question it was says not a significant amount of content, perhaps 4 pages, relatively simple. So in that case, it's very easy to move over your site, right? It's not like you're exporting your pages and importing them. It's just a copy and paste job and re-uploading your images.
And that here's another question. How would you compare WordPress to Squarespace?
I get that all the time.
I know.
And so let me be clear, like, WordPress is a great platform. I'm not saying it isn't. But Squarespace fills an interesting gap in WordPress. So there's one version of WordPress that is hosted for you. If you all remember, I mentioned the hosted content management system where it's hosted for you. So WordPress does have that opportunity, or that option, and it's pretty reasonably priced, but usually those templates don't look that good. Their functionality is not that great. That's for like a really simple kind of amateur blog. If you're like a part-time blogger or something, then I would maybe do that, or what have you. And then there's the version of WordPress, which is the open source software, which you would install on a host like Bluehost or one of those other hosting providers, and then you would probably buy a premium template for like $60 or so and implement it or whatever. But the thing is with that version of WordPress, where you find a host for it, usually creating a site on WordPress that way is really, really difficult for the average person, and it usually doesn't turn out well. And if you want to hire like a good WordPress person to create like a more custom, like nice WordPress site for you, usually that is pretty expensive and pretty time consuming, and there's a decent amount of risk with it, because with web people, it's kind of hard to figure out, hey, is this person good or not? So if there's going to be a lot of back and forth, so it might be at the very least, $2,500 or $3,000. And it might not even turn out well. Could be good, but there's a lot of risk there because there's so many WordPress developers. And then from there, it's going to be hard. It's much more challenging to maintain because if anyone here has a technical background, there's more customization with WordPress, but with more customization comes a lot more risk. So if you have a beautiful custom WordPress site done for you for, let's say, $3,000, obviously you spent a lot of money, you spent a lot of time, but it's probably kind of cumbersome to change around text, to change around images, to add in a blog. And then where do you go when inevitably you have to install like WordPress updates, because there's often like security patches that have to be installed, or your site can get hacked because it is open source software. Whereas with Squarespace, you can get a beautiful site up much quicker. They do the support for you, that you don't have to buy any templates, and it's much more secure and reliable. So I think WordPress is great. Like the custom WordPress version is great if you have a bunch more money and you're willing to outsource the updates to someone else, whether it's some sort of retainer package or on an hourly basis, and you don't want to be fidgeting with things. But if you're an independent consultant who wants something done more quickly, more cost effectively, that still looks great, and ideally that you have a little bit of control over yourself and you can go in and poke around an update without being scared of breaking anything, and also don't need to pay someone a retainer to maintain, then I think Squarespace is really the best option.
Okay, that's
do
it.
you think that answers it well?
More than enough.
Perfect. Sorry, maybe I'm a little chatty today. Sorry. So getting started here. Firstly, you want to organize your content and links to perspective images, such as from the variety of different free or inexpensive stock photo sites. And then your ideas, you want to put that all into a single document, just a single working document. I like to use Google Docs because I can take it anywhere and it auto saves. I never have to worry about, oh, is this the latest version of my Word doc? Second, you can start your free trial on Squarespace by simply going to the templates page and picking a template. Again, these are the suggestions that I mentioned for independent consultants. And then lastly, just buy your domain, ideally a .com, and I recommend GoDaddy. That being said, if you're unsure of the domain you want, or you're unsure of your company name, or maybe your domain is taken, so like the name of your business's domain is taken, so you need to research other options, keep in mind, like, you can still build your entire website without needing the domain. It's just when you're ready to launch it, then you need the domain.
All right, Jared, I have a few Pika recommendations specifically for consultants.
Please.
And the most important one is to refine your core service offerings to maybe 3 things at the most. I lead a whole workshop on branding to build your business, and the key point is that being a jack of all trades will not get you more work. You want to appear as an expert in something, at the most 3 things. So that's a whole separate workshop called Branding to Build Your Business. And if appropriate, clarify your market segment. If you really have done a lot of projects in healthcare, say that right there on your website, because like I said, you want to be an expert. And I'm also a big fan of using these key phrases about phrasing things from the client's point of view. For example, I deliver results by that kind of thing, so they don't have to work so hard to understand what it is or how it is that you can help them. But like I said, whole nother workshop about that.
Good recommendations. And so next, I mentioned the last slide about using high quality photos, and this is probably the error I see the most. Like, a website that would otherwise be pretty good, or at the very least like decent and not embarrassing, is often plagued by these like poor quality photos. So firstly is you can't just pull images off of like Google Images and save it and upload it, because chances are you don't have the rights to those images. So with that being said, firstly, you want to make sure these images are high resolution. So when you upload them, they're not blurry or pixelated. I feel like we see that a lot of times on websites, at least like kind of amateur websites. Next, you want to make sure to use images that are actually photographs that look like they happened. For example, I think we're all over the stock photos where everyone is smiling and looking at the camera and making a thumbs up, or pumping their fists like that middle image, or these weird like 3D graphics like this compass that points to answers, or this generic looking man with this like 3D consulting overlay thing. Like, I think we can agree that those aren't real images. Those didn't happen in real life. Instead, this bottom image here with the big arrow next to it, that is a nice looking image to see on a site because that actually looks like it happened, right? Even if it is staged in a stock photo way or whether it is a real photo, regardless, it looks like it happened, and that is the kind of image you want to see on a website. And just some suggested sources here. And there's lots of free stock photo sites that are good. Just some ones I like are StockSnap, Pexels, and Unsplash. And then some pretty inexpensive paid stock photos, which are a great investment, right? Would be something like iStock, and a lot of their paid photos start at $10. In some cases, they maybe go up to $33. But even then, if you want a really nice homepage and there just happens to be a $33 image that really makes it, then I would pay for that. And then Getty Images actually has a partnership right through, like, where you can buy their images right through Squarespace for about $10 each. So there's lots of good photos that are either free or inexpensive, so there's no excuse to not have good photos.
Jared, when I send these slides out, the names of these sites are all hyperlinked. So if you open the participants, when they open the slides, they'll be able to click right through to these sites.
Perfect. Next, and I see this a lot, is a lot of people either don't have a contact page or they have a contact page and they just have their email or their phone number, or both. And I think that is actually usually doing them a disservice, and that's for a few different reasons. I think the main thing is, one of the benefits of being an independent consultant is you have some work flexibility. So perhaps, in the middle of the day, you have to run to an appointment or you want to go to the grocery store or whatever, but your phone rings, right? And maybe it's a huge prospect because they see your phone number on your site. And let's say you miss it, or you ignore it because it's a call from a number you don't recognize, or they don't leave a voicemail or whatever. Well, perhaps you just lost a huge lead. And then conversely, and even if you pick up the phone, it's possible you're not in the best circumstance, right? Maybe you're about to run out the door, or maybe you're about to hop on another call or whatever. Maybe you're not in the best position to have that conversation with that person right then. So I think there's just too much room for error if you just want someone to call you out of the blue. And then next, if you just have your email address on the site, then sometimes like it's kind of hard to frame the conversation and it takes a few extra emails to get to the point. So what I love about a contact form is that it really not only is it's like not catching you off guard like a random out of the blue phone call, but it also frames the conversation with the minimum amount of information that you need to confirm if someone is worth engaging in a conversation or scheduling a call with, or if they're crazy and never to respond to them or whatever. And it's always stored in your email, so you're probably much less likely to miss it. And instead of in regards to creating a contact form, I just recommend like these simple fields: first name and last name, email address, phone number, but being optional, but ideally someone leaves it. Just an open box of how can we help you, and lastly, how did you hear about us, or how did you hear about me, which is also optional. And that should basically tell you like everything you need to know. And it's really easy to create a contact form on Squarespace, just like this. One example, Liz included some examples in this PowerPoint, some of which Website by Tonight did, my company, and some of other companies did that we liked in general. This happens to be one that Website by Tonight did, and it's on Squarespace. And one thing that people like about this site is that it is just one page because there's not a ton of content, so there's no need to have separate pages anyway. It's a clean layout. There's this real photo in the banner. There's testimonials a little bit lower on the page about talent strategies, services, and success stories. There's a clear call to action. When you hit the Let's Chat link in the top right, it scrolls you to the Let's Connect section. And there's also icons clicking through to talent strategy social media pages. right? So just something like really simple that gets the point across. And one page is often all you need to prove your credibility, to have someone see if they're possibly a fit for your services and see that other people like them have succeeded with hiring you, and to take the next step.
Jared, do you remember offhand what template, Squarespace template this one was?
Yes, I used to use it all the time. So it's called Pacific.
That's nice.
And so it's a one-page. Pacific is really best for like a one-page scrolling site where those top links you click on either desktop or mobile, and they take you to that section on that single page. Some other good sample websites. So A. Phillips Consulting, that's another one on Squarespace that we at Website by Tonight did. And then the Carabiner Group is, Liz, I think this is a Pika member, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Carabiner Group, and I like this site as well. I think it's really good, and I know this site was built on WordPress, and obviously not a client of ours. But I think both of these are good examples of directions that you can take a website. So the Talent Strategy one and the Carabiner Group have a nice image in the banner with pretty simple, obvious text as to what the firm does, and they include attractive looking stock images. And here with Alexandra Phillips, she has these nice professional confident headshots because she's branding the business around herself as opposed to Talent Strategy. It's a one-woman business, but she's branding it Talent Strategy as opposed to around her. And the Carabiner Group, I'm not sure if that's just a one-person business branded as a company or if there's multiple people, but there's multiple different ways to do it. But these are in general, like a very simple, like minimal online brochure, which quickly gets to the point of what you do, is really what you should be going for.
So Jared, this is the time where we would review somebody's existing website and offer feedback. I forgot to check my email prior to the webinar, but as of last night, we didn't have any volunteers, but I did pull up a website. Let me just ask now, if any of you on the call would like Jared to offer suggestions on your existing website, just go ahead and put the URL in the chat or Q&A window and we can copy paste it. But in the meantime, if I can figure out how to share to a different place. Oh, well, this is going to be ugly. Okay. Close your eyes for a minute while I get to the other website.
Perfect. Wasn't so bad.
Yeah?
No, it's good.
Okay. So,
oh, go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, can you walk us through some of your impressions of this website?
Sure. Is it full screen on your browser? You know what I'll do, actually? It's a little bit tough to see on your screen, Liz. Zoom might be not picking it up correctly because it's kind of cutting it off a bunch.
Sorry.
No worries.
I don't know. I can't help you with that, to be honest.
No problem. Okay.
It's on my laptop screen right now, so it's...
Oh, okay. No problem. I'm going to go on mine. Give me 1 second.
So then tell me what you're looking at, and I'll scroll for the audience to see.
Okay. All right. So let's see. All right. It's loaded up. I'm looking at the top. Is this a Pika member, Liz?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay. So I'm sure that whoever this person is, they're very credible. I think, honestly, the first thing I noticed is that the URL is kind of challenging to read. You know, like the company name, you know, Paradigma. But if you look at paradigmastrategy.com, it's like, I don't know, it kind of like jumbles up.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to read. So I feel like the first thing is that's going to be easy for people to get confused and to read and to spell. Next, if you look in the top right, Liz, do you see that little black plus or that black section with the white plus? So if you click that, that's some sort of unconfigured WordPress template widget.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually know this template because it's a good template. It's like probably one of the most popular ones. It's called, I'm pretty sure this is the Avada template. And so it's good, but clearly this was was not, like, this should be hidden because it says this is a custom widget, right? So it's clearly very placeholder. The other thing I noticed about the URL really quickly is notice that it doesn't have little green lock that says secure next to it. It's got the little eye symbol, and click the little eye symbol. Be careful here, your website connection isn't encrypted, right? So like that's a little scary in and of itself. On Google Chrome, it says not secure. So it's a little more fearful than on Microsoft. So that's something you want, is you want like an HTTPS secure lock connection. I'm not sure how to set that up on WordPress, but what I will say it comes default with Squarespace sites. That's really awesome. And search engines also take note of that and give you additional credibility. On the top navigation here, we have home, services, news, contact. So I think that's good, right? Like I'd probably love some sort of about section, but this is good. I don't see a need for the search box. I have a thing against search boxes because they don't really have any context. I don't know what I should be searching for. But especially because the site is so minimalist, it's like, what's the point of even having a search icon anyway? There's not much content. Scrolling down here, there's this nice image of this city. It's kind of zoomed out though. It's kind of generic. Maybe I'm a buffoon, but I don't know where the city. I don't know what city this is.
I think it's Denver.
Okay. So that's nice, right? So, but not everyone may be as geographically, skilled like you, Liz, or knowledgeable. And then, so not only that, there's no context, but I wish there was some sort of banner text.
Yeah, like I have headline.
Yeah, some sort of headline that draws me in. And this image is okay, but it's not the most compelling either. So I'm just confused. And then if I scroll down to about Paradigma, I assume Paradigma, it says, Paradigma's approach to organizational change is informed by social organizational psychology. Organizational change has predictable phases, behavior, and success factors. It's kind of a lot of big words, kind of hard to read, like kind of academic sounding. I feel like on websites in general, it's usually a good idea to kind of, I don't know if dumb down the language is the right word, but just speak in like plainer text, plainer terms. That's one thing I really recommend. I also have to say I don't like this generic. By the way, like I said, I'm sure this person's very credible, or this company is very credible. It's just a website hiccup, right, in terms of the overall opinion. So hopefully that person's feelings not hurt. But I don't
not on
like
the call, by the way.
Okay, great. Well, they may watch the replay. But like I think the text cloud is kind of silly. System, psychology, strategy. Like it's just kind of generic. And then these blog images are just not the best quality, right? Like an old TV, an old strange 1950s reference. Notice the latest from the blog. This person last posted in 2013. So like, Liz, I don't know where you got this example, but it is a great example of kind of the kind of big things I see that are issues. And we have a testimonial, which is nice. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like the idea of testimonials, but I'm not sure I like it in the same row as the latest from the blog.
Yeah, that's confusing as well. Yeah, they should definitely be separate. And the testimonial is very small. I probably should be more prominent and all that. And then the About Us in the footer here, one thing that always drives me crazy is when people leave this bar at the bottom that says powered by WordPress. So that looks very kind of amateur as well. It looks very like hobbyist if you say, oh, powered by WordPress or powered by Squarespace or powered by Wix. And then it says copyright 2014, right? So it's like, and then under categories, there's leadership, organizational psychology, and then uncategorized. Like, well, it just looks like an incomplete website that someone started a while ago. And this person probably does well, probably gets enough business. And they probably say, I hear this a lot from, consultants. Liz, you can tell me if you hear this, is, I get more than enough business I can handle. I haven't touched my website in years. I don't care. I don't need it to get business, right?
Yeah, people do say that, but it does matter because it leaves an impression.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the services page is just a lot of text, a lot of bullets, nothing too special here. And then if I click the news tab, there's actually nothing on there, which is kind of surprising because there are these blog posts. I'm curious why that isn't on the news tab. And And, if people click that and they see this blank page, they're going to be confused. And then lastly, on the contact us page, we have a contact form, but it's just your name, your email, your subject, which who knows what to put in there, and then a blank message, as opposed to like, how can we help you? There's no phone number. There's no how'd you hear about us. There's no real context on the page as to what happens when someone even submits this form. So like one thing I recommend on a contact page is like, hey, think you're a fit? Like, fill out this form and to request a free intro call or something. Just setting some really basic expectations as to what someone can expect by filling out the form. So those are my initial impressions of this website. No offense to this person. And I feel like this is very, very common. Someone sets up a simple website on WordPress.com, already hosted for you. They throw the minimal amount of content together, and then they just kind of forget about it. And they're like, well, I have a website. I don't care. On to the next thing. But I think maybe that's costing them business. Maybe that's making them not look professional. Maybe they're losing out on deals that they might have won otherwise with someone same credentials, but happens to have a more professional website that represents them. So that's my initial feedback, Liz.
All right. I didn't realize it was going to be such a good, bad example.
It was perfect. It was like, I see this so often. Like, this is the number one thing I see, because you ask the average person on the street, WordPress powers like 25% of the internet. So if you ask the average person on the street, hey, like, how do you create a website? They'll be like, oh yeah, just do WordPress. It's easy. And usually they're just like so full of it. They haven't done the site themselves, or their site is not good, or whatever. Like, that's usually awful advice to try to do it yourself on WordPress, because it's hard to make a nice looking WordPress site.
Okay. So let me go back to the slides. So if anybody, we still have a couple minutes left if you want Jared to give you some feedback on your existing website. So here's
I'll be more polite and gentle, I promise. Honest, but polite and gentle.
So here's a question that came in on the Q&A. A question about Pika for the closing of webinar. How big is Pika, or how many members? Okay, I'll get to that at the end. Okay. Oh, we already did that, sorry. All right, so Jared, you want to talk a little bit about case studies and testimonials?
Yeah, so I mean, Liz, you're definitely the pro in this arena. And so feel free to chime in. But in general, while case studies and testimonials aren't like absolutely necessary to launch your website, if they're going to take you a little while to get, feel free to launch your website first, but you definitely really want to add them on there as you get them. And a case study doesn't have to be an elaborate PDF white paper or anything like that, but even just a brief case study to demonstrate the types of problems you solve and or the kind of situations you make a difference. So for example, hey, here was the problem. Fortune 500 manufacturing company came to me because their quality was down or something. And then you outline the solution or the opportunity, and then you have like the impact. Oh, by hiring us in 3 months, we reduced their errors by 10% every 1,000, saving them $1 million, right? Something like that. Like just some quick things like that get the high level point across, to where a prospect would be like, wow, that's impressive. I'm a Fortune 500 manufacturing client with quality problems. So, something like that could be really effective for a case study. But even even if you don't have case studies right now, a few client testimonials sprinkled throughout the site or on one page will give prospective clients an idea as to the types of clients you service and who you can help. So, and when you're quoting a testimonial, you don't have to quote the person's name, or you can do first name, last initial, or you can even do, SVP of supply chain at Fortune 500 consumer goods company. But in general, if you don't have case studies, you definitely want testimonials. And then a lot of times, clients would be honored to write you a testimonial via email. In fact, I just built a new website by tonight, like a listing, like a directory page, like an agency directory page, and they open it up for testimonials, and I just sent a mail merge to a bunch of my past clients, and a few of them were already excited to leave me a review, right? So it's like past clients, if they're happy, they're like honored to leave you a testimonial, and they often they often mean that at the end when they say via email, let me know if there's any way I can help you, or if you ever want me to write a testimonial or something. So here's your shot to use that. And in Squarespace, it's easy to add testimonials by using Squarespace functions by having these blocks, these content blocks that you drag and drop onto the page in a line. And so they have a great content block called a quote block. And so there you can just have a nice, simple, prominent way to display testimonials on your site. Conversely, if you have like a lot of testimonials or a lot of case studies, you can create them in a blog page on Squarespace that allows you to toggle featuring them, sorting them, adding metadata, etc. But for just a few simple testimonials, the quote block will work great.
Sorry, I was looking for the wrong button again.
No worries. All right, so some common questions that I'm asked, so I just might as well get ahead of them. FAQs, do I need a logo? You do not need a logo to start. The good thing is that Squarespace, when you start a site on there, you can just have a basic text logo and you can change the font. And to be honest, that actually works quite well a lot of the time. If you want to add one later, you certainly can, whether you know of a graphic designer or you want to try popular marketplaces like Fiverr or 99 Designs or Logojoy. Regardless, I would not recommend spending, $500 or more on a logo, or like maybe max like $500 on like a logo and business card or something like that, unless you're really established, in which case you want to go through like a longer, more intricate brand discovery process and design process. Liz, I know this one is very common for you. Do you use singular or plural pronouns? So I help clients versus we help clients. And I think we can agree that if you brand the business entirely as yourself, use the singular first person. And if you're branded as a company, or you collaborate with others on an as-needed basis, use we. But in general, it's not the end of the world, just as long as you're consistent. If you're switching back and forth between I and we, that's usually pretty weird and throws people off. And I guess that segues actually into the next point. So once again, it's a matter of preference, but be consistent. And then Liz, I think you added this point of people buy and hire from people they like, and you want to be approachable. So, if people are hiring, if really you are the business and people are hiring you, don't be shy and feel free to include I, because it adds that, it directly connects you with the, you're directly tied with the value, and I is more approachable than we in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's a lot more common, I think, in consultant to see first person.
Gotcha. Some other additional recommendations. I see this all the time. It drives me crazy. Honestly, if you learn one thing from this webinar, is please don't use a personal email address, because that looks really, really amateur and not professional. So it's like when I meet a super credible looking person or super credible sounding person at a networking event or whatever, and they hand me their Vistaprint business card with their Gmail or Yahoo or AOL address, I immediately cringe. So please buy a domain for your business. Even if you don't have even if you're waiting on the website, but you know what the domain will be, buy that domain and use that for email. And for email, I just recommend, I like G Suite, which is just Gmail for Business, which is $6 a user a month, which is a great price. I know Liz uses Office 365, which is business email as well, which is like $5 or $6 a month. Both those are fine, right? You don't and you're probably used to that kind of software anyway. It's not like you have to buy email and business email and use it through a weird like Bluehost or something like that. Also, you want to include social media links for any accounts you actively maintain, especially LinkedIn, and you should really regularly maintain your LinkedIn anyway as an independent consultant. You want to minimize external links off of your site because in general, you don't want people clicking off your site. But when you have to, set those links to open up in a new tab or window. And like on Squarespace and usually on other content management systems, they let you add a link and select an option to open in a new tab or window. Make sure to test your site on multiple devices and send it to others to test and proofread as well. with that in mind, if you have like a really old computer running a 10-year-old version of Internet Explorer, testing it on that doesn't matter. But you want to test it on like modern computers with modern browsers and modern devices. And when you send it to other people, make sure their devices are relatively on the newer side. And then lastly, once your website is built, let your network know and make sure to update your social profiles accordingly. And it gives you kind of, as a side note, it does give you a reason to like have people reach out to you, or a touch point, or a reason to post on LinkedIn and draw some engagement. And people want to see new websites anyway. I think that's something people always kind of gravitate towards.
It's a terrific reason to send an email to your list.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another touch point to keep your network warm.
Yeah. And then when they click on it, maybe they'll see how professional you are, and they'll be like, oh, wow, actually, I didn't realize Sue did this, that, or the other. Or actually, I realize I've had this problem, and it might just lead to some business. So if you need additional help, I'm happy to have anyone schedule free idea calls with me personally with Website by Tonight. Or if you just want to go to websitebytonight.com and take a look. And I've created a special package for Pika members where they get a brand new website, looks great on all devices with some basic maintenance training. That they can, you can make basic maintenance training or do basic maintenance yourself. And usually it's $849 flat for this new website, but Pika members get $50 off. And just to give you a little bit of context on my company Website by Tonight, essentially we have a very turnkey productized service that works really well for consultants, because usually consultants have a pretty good idea of what they want, or they can figure it out, and they can write the content, and they just want a simple professional website that makes them look credible. So essentially how this works is we would send you a project brief and content document to complete, and then we quickly approve it to make sure everything looks good. And then we'll actually build your website live and in real time over a screen share. Like, we're collaborating in real time via screen share. Oh, change this color, move this text over here, whatever. And you'll be working with our designers to do that in real time. So it's not going to be tons of emails back and forth and annoying questions and a long drawn out process. You're building the website via screen share in a matter of hours and launching it, with minimal effort or issues or anything like that. So it works really great for many kinds of use cases, especially independent consultants just needing a simple brochure website.
Yeah, $800 for Pika members is like an incredible deal. But that said, I do have a consultant friend who attended this webinar and did build her own Squarespace website on her own. So either way, it works.
If anyone can do that, like, by all means, like, go for it. Like, Squarespace, some people find it really intuitive and can totally do it themselves, and other people need that helping hand getting them clear and setting it up, and then they can easily maintain it. But would love to have more success stories like that consultant, Liz, because some people just naturally are good with that stuff.
Yes, but on the other hand, some people have been putting it off for a long time, and hiring Website by Tonight is a little bit like having a workout buddy or a personal trainer.
Right.
It makes you get it done. And I did notice that a lot of people that signed up for this webinar did have custom domain names, like tailoradvisorygroup.com, but they didn't yet have websites. So anyway, it's a fast, great option, especially if you're too busy to figure it out on your own.
Thank you, Liz. You're too kind. I appreciate that. And I'll speak to the testament of Pika members, because I've actually, Website by Tonight has worked with numerous Pika members, and I feel like I have a pretty good sense of that kind of audience base, and it's all like I consider myself an independent consultant, and I've looked all over for communities for independent consultants, like best practices, not just like a community of like wannabes. There's a lot of wannabe communities. And so, Liz, credit to you for building an awesome community with Pika that actually has like real useful thought leadership and is around people like that are actually really successful consultants, as opposed to just people that call them consultants.
Well, thank you for that testimonial. Yes, Pika members are legitimate consultants.
Yeah. Everyone says they're a consultant now or an entrepreneur now or whatever, but it's hard to find the right community that is actually like, hey, we're actually doing it. Like, this isn't a sham.
Well, no, Pika is not a sham, and I'll answer the question of how big is Pika and how many members. So Pika is let's see, what month are we in May? Pika is only about 12 months old, a little over 12 months old. So we launched last April, and we do have communities sprouting up across the country. We have what we call community leaders in major metros across the country. There's a map on our website that shows which ones, but Chicago, Denver, Houston, Tampa, San Diego. So we have our people on the ground, and we try to do in-person events at least once a year in those locations. But mostly Pika is about education, and we teach you how to be a successful consultant, and we coach you on wherever you are, whatever you're struggling with. So most people get the most out of Pika by our web workshops, such as these are some of our more common ones. We also have one coming up in early June, called Keeping It Legal, which is with our general counsel, Q&A with an employment lawyer, all for the price of membership. So it's all about helping you be your best and be successful and create the consulting career of your dreams, to be honest. It's growing. We're just gaining momentum. We encourage you to join. Then you can get $50 off Website by Tonight, and there's other partner services as well related to insurance, and we're about to launch a new one for contract reviews.
Ooh, that's a valuable one.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. That should be up on our website next week. So basically, that's it. When you join, you can use the code 1809 website to save 20% off the $297. My partners aren't happy that I still have that code on there, but whatever, a little extra incentive. So that's it. And if you're not ready to join Pika, I should mention that some of our workshops are available for $39. So you can try Pika before committing to joining the organization. So some people are a little bit hesitant to join an organization if they don't know what type of people are there, if they're going to get any value. So we have 3 workshops that we offer for $39. And then if you join, we'll credit the $39 towards your membership. But you can only use one discount code at a time. So the 1809 website discount code is worth more than try Pika for $39 and get $39 off, if that makes sense. So anyway, there's one other question here, Jared, that just came in.
Sure.
Somebody has the domain, but they need to do the site. Oh, thanks, Jared and Liz. Yeah, well, now you have what you need. And I think as a follow-up, I also send a Word document where Jared, you said put everything in one document. I think I have that set up.
Perfect.
I think
Yeah.
I think I sent that out with the follow-up. So that's it, people. I did record this, so if you joined late, you'll get the recording, and that's it. Go forth and be successful. Oh, wait, there's one more question.
Oh, sure.
I'm concerned about switching from my GoDaddy website to another. How difficult is it to do?
Well, I guess I would be wondering why the person is concerned, but in general, so the good thing with GoDaddy is that it's really easy to use their domain with like basically any other website service. Like it's really, really easy to connect a GoDaddy domain to a Squarespace site. So I just want to clarify that. And then if you have email set up with GoDaddy, pointing, like I would keep that where it is. I would keep the email on GoDaddy, and I wouldn't move the domain or anything. So the good thing is when you use a domain and you point it to a new place, that's called domain mapping, like a new website, it leaves the email and other things alone. So in case that is part of your concern, that's not a concern with GoDaddy. And then as far as Squarespace, the good thing is you can sign up for a free trial and play around with their templates and things like that. And like you don't have to switch your domain there until the site is entirely done and the hosting is paid for. But their free trial is great. And it's not like you have to connect the domain and then you're in a mad dash to sprint the website to finish the website. Like you can finish the website entirely on like a private hidden domain server type thing. That's how it works. And then when it's all ready to go, you just connect the GoDaddy URL to the new Squarespace site and it connects the pipes for you and the new site's live in like 10 minutes. And that's that. And then as far as, moving the content, it's the same thing where it's just a copy and paste with the text and re-uploading the images.
All right, they said thank you. So I think that's good. So look for the follow-up, and all those links will be live in the slides so that you can go forth and build or go hire Jared's Website by Tonight team. Thanks for joining us. That's it for today. Be your best.
Thank you all.